For most college students, the worst thing that could happen is failing an exam or a course. It's the thing they try to avoid the most and probably stress out about the most. I talk to college women all the time that tell me that's the thing that they lose sleep over, and it's the thing that they fear the most about their college experience. And it's fascinating to me because I personally no longer am fazed by failure. And I think it's because I've become so good at it. It's hard not to become really good at failing when you failed over 7 courses in college and failed at a lot of the goals that you were trying to hit. Failure is something that I now use to gauge how well my life is going, how much I'm growing, how much I'm evolving, how much I'm doing, and how much I'm living. And I think the reason why I have this perspective is because I've taken the time to understand what failure really is. In fact, I have this saying that I say all the time, and that is failure is just feedback, and feedback is not an attack. It's just information that I can use to become better. So tonight, we're going to dive deep into the concept of failure, what it is, what it means, and how to overcome failing your classes this semester if that's what's currently happening to you. So hello everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Clarissa. I am your host, the host of the She Rocks at College live show, a live show that happens every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where I bring together college women in their 20s and 30s to meet each other over chat while being introduced to new ways of thought, ideas, and resources that will help you to not only succeed in college, but in life. So we're talking about failure tonight, and whenever I want to learn more about a topic, the first thing that I do is I look up the definition, which when I kept getting really bummed out about my persistent failure in college and I wanted to not make it such a big deal anymore, I looked up the definition of failure. So failure, according to Webster's dictionary, is the omission of required action. To omit something means to leave it undone, to leave it out, to not complete it, to not do it. So failure literally means not taking the required action. And when we're talking about the required action, typically it's the action needed to succeed. I think that the reason why so many students fear failure is because instead of understanding that failure just means that you didn't take the required action needed to succeed, you didn't do what you needed to do, they actually make it mean that they are not smart enough, worthy enough, capable enough, determined enough, and whatever other lie it is that they tell themselves. The truth is that failure in and of itself means nothing. An F means nothing. It is not good. It is not bad. It's actually just neutral. The only time failure or an F is anything other than neutral is when we assign a meaning to it, when you give a meaning to the F or when you give a meaning to the failure. And the way that you assign a meaning to something is by the things that you think about it. So it's not the failure that you're upset about, mad about, disappointed about, sad about, ashamed about. It's the thoughts that you're thinking about failing that is really causing your emotions. And it's the thoughts that you're thinking about failing that is really causing the problem you think failure brings to your life. Now, I want you to stay with me as I explain something about life. And I'm going to take a sip of water because I'm sick. The only reason why any of us want a passing grade, the only reason why any of us want an A, the only reason why any of us want a B, want a 4.0 GPA is because we believe that in the having of it, we will feel better. Everything we want in life, we want it because we believe it will make us feel good. And I want you to really think about that. I want you to think about everything that you want to accomplish in your life, everything that you've done, everything that you want to have in your life, everything that you've purchased. Think about why you wanted that. And I want you to keep asking yourself, okay, why? Why? Until you have no other answer. Typically, when you reach that point, you've reached an emotion. And the emotion that most people land on is happiness. And now happiness, it can be described a multitude of different ways because we have a bunch of different words in the English language that all represent the same emotion. But I want you to take the time in the comments to let me know if you actually agree with that statement, that everything that we want in our life, we want it because we believe that if we have it, we will feel better in some way, shape, or form, or it'll make us feel good. Now, the thing about feelings is that our feelings drive all of our actions. And the only thing that produces a result is action. So I'm going to say that again. Our thoughts produce a feeling. Feeling produces an action. Action produces a result. So again, what is producing our feeling? I want you to drop a 1 in the comments if you think that your circumstances causes the way that you're feeling. So in this case, it could be the circumstance that you have an F in your class currently and you're not going to pass. I want you to drop a 2 in the comments if you believe other people cause the way that you're feeling. Someone does something to you and that's the reason why you feel the way you feel. And I want you to drop a 3 in the comments if you believe that your thinking is what is truly causing your feelings. If you said 3, you're right. And I'm going to give you an example to help you understand this. I promise you that I'm going to help ground this in for you because when you're first hearing about this information, it can really kind of blow your mind. It can be super hard to wrap your brain around this, but I'm going to give you a tangible example that I think will help ground this in. So my bio advisor, when I was a junior in college on the pre-med track, we sat down junior year to talk about what my career goals were. And at the time, I wanted to be an OBGYN. I wanted to go on to medical school and deliver babies. Well, the conversation came up about my grades and, where I was in the program and my likelihood of getting into the medical schools that I was thinking of applying to. And she straight up told me that I would never make it in the medical field. And I seriously needed to reconsider my career goals because from her perspective, I just didn't have what it takes to succeed. I didn't have what it takes to succeed in medicine. Now you can imagine that when I heard that, I had a rush of feelings, a rush of emotions come over me. I was angry, I was pissed off, I was sad, I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, and I was disappointed. But it wasn't my advisor's fault that I felt that way. And you may or may not agree with that. But she didn't cause those emotions in me. Her statement, I don't think you have what it takes in the to succeed in the medical field, was just a string of words. They were just words put together in a sentence. Until I made it mean something else with my thoughts. The reason why I felt angry, pissed off, sad, embarrassed, ashamed, and disappointed was because of the thoughts I was having about what she said. But all she said was a string of words. They had no meaning until I assigned a meaning to them with my thoughts. And those thoughts were, I cannot believe she said that to me. Who does she think she is? I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. I failed. I'm not good enough for college. I'm not smart enough. How silly could I be to think that I could actually get into medical school with these grades? What are my parents going to think? Oh my God, everyone that I ever knew in high school is going to talk so much crap about me because I was a smart girl and here I am not even being able to get into medical school. My life is completely over. What am I going to do? This is all I've ever wanted to do. It was the meaning that I attached to her words that caused them to have the effect that they had on my life. I want you to consider that if she would have said those same words to another student, that they might have landed differently. She could have said those same words to a student who was a bio major, but wasn't even interested in medical school. And they wouldn't have fazed them as much as it fazed me. And the reason why is because they weren't having the same thoughts that I was having that generated the feelings of me being angry, pissed off, sad, embarrassed, ashamed, and disappointed. I see so many students quit on themselves after one failed quiz, after one failed exam, after one failed semester. And I see so many students paralyzed with fear because they failed in the past and they're afraid to move forward. And the reason why is because the thoughts they're thinking about their failure is causing an emotion that they're either acting on, resisting, or avoiding. But if you take the time to truly wrap your mind around the definition of failure, which is just not taking the required action, it seems really silly to quit, to give up, to not try again, because you know all you have to do to succeed is take the required action, because failure just means you didn't take the actions you needed to succeed. So it has nothing to do with who you are as a person. But, the question then becomes, how do you do that? How do you overcome failing your semester so that you can let go and move on when you've attached all of this other meaning to the concept of failure? Well, you start by changing your thoughts around what failure means. Because we've already determined that if you change the way that you think, you'll change the way that you feel, which means you'll change the way that you act, and thus change the results you have in your life. So if you no longer want to feel disappointed, inadequate, deficient at the end of every semester, what would you have to believe about yourself to achieve that? What thoughts would you need to focus your attention on to produce the opposite emotions? Some of the opposite emotions might be feeling accomplished, feeling successful, feeling capable. We have got to be deliberate about this practice of managing our minds, because it is the only thing that is stopping us from seeing the success it is that we want in our lives. Because one of our brain's goals is efficiency. It wants to keep on thinking what it's been thinking, even if it hasn't been serving us, because it's easy for the brain to constantly play that loop. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm incapable. Because it's been doing it for so long, it doesn't have to, put any effort towards it. It can conserve energy by doing that, but it isn't serving you. And if you know that what you think affects how you feel, and how you feel determines how you act, and how you act determines the results you have in your life, don't you want to choose the thoughts that you're thinking? Don't you want to control the thoughts that you're thinking? If you want next semester to be your best semester yet, this is a daily practice you need to be doing. Every single day, you need to be a watcher of your thoughts. You need to see what's going on up there. What do you keep telling yourself? Is it serving you? How is it making you feel? How are you acting when you think those thoughts? And what are those actions producing in your life? And one of the ways that you can do this as a daily practice, and when I say a daily practice, a practice is what it sounds like. When you think of someone practicing baseball, they go to practice, they run, they practice hitting balls, they practice catching the ball, they practice throwing the ball if they're the pitcher. That's what I mean. Every day you are working on this. Every day you're sitting down and you're working on your thoughts. Practice makes progress. When you make progress, eventually you'll hit the results it is that you want to hit. So every day, one of the things that I do is I do what Brooke Castillo calls a thought download. So I think about a problem in my life, something that's causing me stress, something that I'm worried about, something that is constantly on my mind. If I'm having racing thoughts, I take out a piece of paper and I write all of the thoughts that I'm having. The thoughts could be, oh, I feel like I don't have enough time. I'm really behind in this class. Oh my God, I don't feel like I can understand this math problem. I'm doing so poorly in physics. I'm never going to be able to catch up. Whatever is on your mind, you just write it down. This is not a to-do list brain dump. This is a thought download. You're writing down all of the thoughts that you're having in your mind. That's what we're focused on. And what you want to do is you want to just, after you finish writing it down, this can be like a 5 to 15 minute thing. It doesn't need to be this whole to-do. You don't have to make it this big production. Just keep it simple. 5 minutes, write down all of the thoughts that you're having. And I want you to go through them and just look at them. So many of us go unconscious in our life. We're not even noticing what's going on up here. We're not noticing the things that are happening in our mind that are causing so many problems, because the only thing that can cause a problem is a thought that you're having about whatever circumstance is happening in your life. Circumstances are neutral. They only become good or bad when we think something about them. But we go through day in and day out without thinking about what we're thinking, without noticing what we're thinking. And our thinking produces emotions that cause us to act, which produce results. It's so important that you get this, that you understand this. And if you do this every morning, you'll become more aware of the thoughts that you're having. And I often get students who do this and they freak out because they don't like what they're writing down. They don't like what's happening up here and they want to rush to change it. But it's super important that you take the time to just notice it, to just become aware of what's been going on up there, to feel it, to notice the emotions that come up for you when you read that thought list out, and write those emotions down. And also write down what they feel like in your body. And become aware of that, because that's going to give you so much information. Whenever I feel anxious, the first thing I do is write down what I'm thinking, because it's only my thoughts that are causing me to be anxious. And I have a whole video on anxiety as a student on my YouTube channel that you can go and watch, where I explain how that happens, how our thoughts are are causing our anxiety. So every day, do this thought download. Notice the thoughts that you're having, notice the feelings that are coming up, and then think about, when I feel this way, when I'm feeling frustrated, when I'm feeling inadequate, when I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, when I'm feeling stupid, how do you act? Do you hide? Do you avoid doing work? Do you try to buffer by going to watch Netflix, or overeating, or going to over-exercise, or going on a random Walmart trip because you don't want to deal with the emotions that are coming up? It's so important for you to see what's happening. Do you procrastinate? And what results are those actions producing, right? What is procrastination producing in your life? What is avoiding your work producing in your life? What is eating every time you're anxious producing in your life? What is avoiding office hours producing in your life? Okay, what is staying up all night when you're feeling anxious producing in your life? Because whenever we feel something, we do 3 things. We either act, react, or avoid. And everybody has their own way of doing those 3 things. And it's important that you see what you're doing, because what you're doing is producing the results you have in your semester right now. And when you begin to understand what is happening, when you begin to understand the thoughts that you're having, including the thoughts that you're having about what failure means, you can start changing what you're experiencing in your life. Once you see those thoughts and you aren't afraid to actually look at them, to feel them, to see what's coming up for you, it's important that you then start to change those thoughts to thoughts that produce an emotion that will get you to act in a way that will produce the results that you want. So for example, if a result that you want in your life is you want to get a B- in all of your classes next semester, you think to yourself, how would that feel? Man, if I got a B- in all of my classes next semester, I'm going to feel badass. I'm going to feel successful. Perfect. What would you have to think to produce the thought that you're successful? Some of the thoughts might be, I have a healthy brain, which means my brain can learn. It might be my brain is capable of learning. It might be I can learn any skill that will help me to do better in college. It might be I've received B- in the past, which means I've proven to myself that I can do it. The thought might be, I know what I need to do to get a B- in the class. The thought might be, all failure is not following the required steps, and if I follow the required steps, I'll succeed. You can borrow my thought, which is failure is just feedback, and feedback is not an attack. It's just information that I can use to become better. And notice how you feel when I just said all of those thoughts. You might have noticed that maybe you felt relief, you felt relaxed, you felt capable, you felt successful, you felt like you could do it. And when you feel that way, when you feel successful, when you feel like you're capable, when you feel like you can do it, when you feel like, excited about the work that you're doing, how are you going to act? Well, you're going to sit down and do the math homework. You're going to sit down and write the paper. You're going to sit down and do the research. You're going to sit down and do the reading, because you've created a feeling that produces an action that will then give you the result of getting a B- in your classes, which will then reinforce your thought, I'm capable of getting a B-, or my brain can learn new things, or, I've gotten B- in the past. This practice of noticing your thoughts, of seeing how they make you feel, of noticing how you're acting because of those feelings, of noticing how those actions are producing your results, is how you begin to overcome failure. If you change the meaning of failure to something that serves you in a positive way, you will act differently. And I promise you that next semester, if you do this, next semester will be significantly better. Significantly. The only way to overcome failure is by changing the meaning of it. And you have the power to do that, because the only thing that gives failure any meaning is what you're thinking about what failure means. And you have a choice to change that by changing your thoughts. And so I will leave you with that. As always, thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's show. We're here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes and all the other fun things that we have up our sleeves to help you have your best semester yet. Bye.